Good morning. Good morning. It's Monday, September 30th. Welcome to Breakfast with Bridgett, streaming live on News 6 Plus and clickorlando.com and YouTube channel for News 6. We're glad you're with us. And this morning we are looking at the continuing headlines about Hurricane Helene and the tropical storm that really made a mess of the Georgia and Carolinas area. And we're also going to talk live with Harbor House of Central Florida this morning about some upcoming charity events you can get involved in and all the great resources they provide to the community and those impacted by domestic violence. So that is still ahead. But first, we're going to swing over to the Pinpoint Weather Center with Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos. And Candace, unfortunately, we are still talking about the tropic and watching things happening out there. And we really still need to pay attention. In the meantime, so many people still trying to get back on their feet from what was left of Helene really devastating the Southeast.
And it's one of those things where we continue to say it's not the wind, it's the water with a lot of these storms, not only for coastal communities where we dealt with the storm surge and just the crazy high levels of surf that we saw in so many areas along the Gulf Coast, but then the concern for the added rain in areas of Georgia.
And all the downed trees, that's been a big problem for family and friends in Georgia. That has really caused a lot of damage and delays.
Yeah. And so it's just your heart goes out to so many people who are still at this point in time picking up the pieces, trying to find their loved ones, trying to get out of harm's way.
And we're sending resources to them. You know, the governor's sending resources up north. So, I mean, it just goes to show, like, we talk about a hurricane, but so much of what's left of it can even be worse.
Right. Because a lot of these storms, they weaken, but that moisture's got to go somewhere, right? So you're talking about the surge that goes in, and it slows down, and that's where you get those inland flooding concerns for so many. And it's one of those things too where we have to continue to push that message out there that it's not just the landfall, right? It is what happens on the outside. We had places like Bradenton and Sarasota that saw crazy amount of flooding from just storm surge, where some folks were like, well, this wasn't even our storm. We were like, well, you know, it's everyone's storm, especially when you talk about Helene, the size that it was.
Right. And what was the wingspan, or what would be the right terminology, the diameter of that storm?
The wind field, it reached at 345 miles from the center.
Wow.
So that's not even the full scale. That's just from the center outward. And then remember, we always talk about the right side of the storm. It was incredible. There was a graphic that I saw from some meteorologists from up north who posted the outage map and then the track of where Helene was. And you had the track and then everything on the right side of Helene. The power outages were crazy different than on the left side. So it just goes to show you that right side, that's the reason why we talk about the dirty side of the storm, because you can be in that storm, but depending on what part of the storm you're in can really make a very, very big difference.
Yeah, it's like a plow.
It really is. Unfortunately, we're talking about more things brewing in the tropics. One that we here in Central Florida are going to keep a close tab on. So for so many people who've messaged us saying, you guys said it was going to be an active season. You guys are over sensationalizing things. And it just, you want to take that person out of the computer, out of the computer screen and sit them down and show them that it's not just the number of storms that we talk about. Yes. Okay. So the number of storms is lower. That's great news. Believe me, me and everybody around us is happy to hear that. But how impactful this season has been. With the number of landfalling hurricanes. So you could have 25, 30 named storms out in the Atlantic, not bothering anybody. That technically, does that qualify as a busy season? Does it not qualify as an active season? Or if you have a handful of storms, but they all make landfall, some looking like Helene. So it's one of those things. It's a really hard definition when you start talking about activity in the tropics. Yes, maybe it's not a record-breaking number storm, when you're looking at just, a score count or a scorecard. But when we talk about how impactful this season was, it's It's pretty powerful. So,
Yep.
all right, let's take it to the map, show you, because at the end of the day, hurricane season is still in full speed ahead. We are tracking 5 different areas right now, Bridgett, in the tropics.
Wow.
Most of them not a concern for us here in Central Florida, which is certainly good news. Many of them not a concern for most people. We are talking about a number of storms out in the middle of the Atlantic, but there is one that we are going to be watching pretty closely as we head throughout the rest of the work week. So this is what it looks like. Oh, I don't know why that's doing that. There's a big old trying to figure out why that is. I'm trying to troubleshoot right now. We have Joyce Isaac, TD number 12, which could become Kirk, by the way, in the next day or so. But the one we, again, are keeping very close eye on is an area there in the Caribbean. Right now, it's a broad low. It's going to be moving into the Gulf of Mexico by about midweek. And that is when the National Hurricane Center is now going to be upping its chances for potential tropical development. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be raging into another category 4 hurricane, but we're talking about gradual development, possibly a depression by later on this week. Now, the problem with systems like this, just like how Helene was, it's still not a system yet. It is still not centered. It's still not organized. Right now, computer models are all over the place. So fair warning that when you go online, you go on social media, you go on X, Instagram, wherever you routinely go and look around, you're going to get a lot of these quick, like, one screenshot model posts. That's not the person. That's not a trusted source you should be watching. A lot of YouTubers, a lot of Instagrammers, a lot of TikTokers think that they can go online and post data, which is, yes, you can do that. You're totally allowed to do that. But the problem is that sends the wrong information out there. Right now, you have to look at the overall envelope, the ensemble of what these storms look like. And that means you take the European, that means you take the GFS, the Canadian, the American, you take all of these put together and show an overall storyline. There's not one specific storyline right now in the tropics. So with that being said, this is one of the many models we are looking at. Shows overall kind of a broad area of low pressure moving into the Gulf of Mexico. But look how late we're talking about. This is Saturday going into Sunday, potentially, that we're still going to be looking for something. Models now showing a little bit of some circulation going on by the coast here of Florida by Monday. But with that being said, how strong will it be? How intense will it be? What's the exact track? All that is still yet to be decided. So with that being said, it's one of those things you want to stay informed and you want to monitor and keep a close tab on. But it's also something that don't be just jumping the gun here when you're watching some of these social media posts, because sometimes it's just for clicks, right? So that's kind of a little tidbit that we've been wanting to really push. So find your trusted resource, whether it's me, whether it's another source. I just want to make sure that everyone's finding a trusted source for weather information. If you want to come with us, I would love to hear that. Locally here, we're still talking about more scattered rain. Not so much today. Rain chances, Bridgett, are down to about 30% today. We're going to increase them up to about a 60% tomorrow. You can see a big swath of tropical moisture streaming in by then. So as we take you here throughout the next few hours, right now, we're out the door. It's warm. It's muggy. Feeling very tropical outside. We're at 93 for your high today. Feeling like the triple digits, by the way, up to about 105. And as you get results here, the full 7-day forecast, the Gulf is going to get pretty messy over the next couple of days. We have different little circulations going on. We have a cold front. We have just overall just tropical moisture in place. So with that being said, there's a lot to monitor. There's a lot for computer models to grab onto. So that is why we're going to continue to iron out those details, especially once we start getting the system better organized. We'll start getting more unison computer models that all kind of start from the same point, and we'll go from there. So
Yeah.
That's a couple little takeaways, because there's been a lot of noise, and social media is great for so many reasons, but it also can also hurt when you don't realize your feed is being filled up with, these one quick snapshots of one forecast, not an overall story, right?
Again, what's the day range or amount of time we need to get a better idea?
Great question. I think we'll really start getting a better handle on it possibly by Wednesday, I would say, pretty much. Really, once it moves into the Gulf of Mexico, that's when we're looking at more of a formation going on. For actual tropical moisture impacts, question mark, we're talking about towards the weekend into early next week. So it's going to be a slow process, a very slow process.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Candace. We'll see you.
You're welcome.
For some more updates a little later.
I can't wait to be able to tell you about all the cool, beautiful fall, wintry weather we're going to be seeing. But right now, that's not my job. My job is to tell you about the good and the not so good stuff too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Candace.
You're welcome.
All right, so we want to check in with Steve too. He is back and missed a lot. But how are you? How's everything? How'd you fare with the storm?
I was here. I just missed y'all. So I got landlocked here. My vacation plans, but hey, it was nice taking a nice week off.
But everybody's safe. Everything's.
Hell yeah, everything's good. I do think I need a roof. I need a roof. Yeah. And the idea of that alone is stressing me out. Yeah. But outside of that, things are good. The dogs were good. Everything went pretty good. I monitored you guys nice and carefully while sitting at the house. And now back with you to start the week off strong. I am excited about your interview today, though, because you guys are talking about the Purple Door event on Wednesday?
Yes, and it's something else, too. So they have a couple of events in October we're going to get to.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can't wait for that lunch. It's going to be awesome. So no stream today for the record. Let everyone know.
Okay.
But there will be one that puts on there at 8:30, but no live one today. We got to do some get the truck up and going after all the weather and all that fun stuff. Make sure things are good, and then we'll be back up and going tomorrow for an awesome one with Titusville Police Department for National Night Out. But I can give you traffic real quick and give you a little update on how things are there. Right now, still watching that crash off of 429 northbound, just north of US 192. You see the state troopers out there. That's going to be our commercial motor vehicle enforcement guys. They are out there inspecting that truck after that crash, so please be careful. And then eastbound I-4 super slow out by the attractions this morning. 32-minute drive time from Champions Gate to State Road 408. And then earlier we did have a crash westbound along I-4 approaching 434. Really slowed us down this morning from the Lake Mary area. But DOT cam showing that crash is cleared, but the lanes are a little slow out there this morning. So you just got to be careful. In our school zones along Markham Woods and, of course, south there of what road is that? Longwood Lake Mary. You have things running decent after school has already started for us this morning. And then a quick zoom out here so we can check on a crash, see if it's still there. Yeah, University Boulevard heading eastbound this morning, just west of UCF. Outside of that, Bridgett, pretty decent Monday when it comes to the roads. Make sure everyone following their travel distance. We won't have any of that crazy weather, but just keep weather aware. Candace has got me a little super focused right now on the tropics. So make sure you're weather aware, guys, and I'll catch up with you all later.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
See ya.
See ya. So, as we mentioned, Helene really turned out to be so devastating, and even officials in North Carolina calling this biblical level devastation. So it is so sad. The death toll has been going up, and so we've been getting heartbreaking reports and pictures out of North Carolina. Georgia hit really hard, as well as South Carolina, and so many states involved in this. And Mark Lehman has the latest developments on these latest totals in damages and outages and deaths.
Aerial views show the scope of the devastation in western North Carolina. The city of Asheville is underwater, and across the state, wrecked roads have isolated communities.
I cannot believe that. There was a whole house right there.
This woman says she fled her home when waters were waist deep. When she returned, the neighborhood was gone.
Their house is literally completely gone. My neighbor's house his trailer is up against my house.
Authorities have been rushing to airlift supplies and restore communications to the hardest hit areas.
People are desperate for help, and we are pushing to get it to them. A massive effort. Many people are cut off because roads are impassable.
In the Big Bend region of Florida, recovery is just getting started. Over the weekend, Governor DeSantis toured the damage from Helene's landfall, saying the destruction appears to be greater than the combined effects of Idalia and Hurricane Debbie in August.
Some of those homes were totally destroyed. I mean, it was really, really catastrophic to see that. There's going to be a lot that needs to be done in that area.
And so we'll continue to keep you updated as more information comes in about these relief efforts and, of course, the weather outlooks as well as we move into the week. And now to a potential strike that is looming with the ports, and it could affect our supply chain, especially food items and popular products that we shop for regularly. This is the first time in almost 50 years that port workers across the country are set to go on a strike. And John Lawrence explains the impacts that this work stoppage could have.
Days after Congress prevented a government shutdown, the U.S. economy is facing another potential challenge this week. Union workers at 36 facilities covered by 14 port authorities from Maine to Texas are threatening to walk off the job.
We're really going to start feeling this impact pretty quickly if this strike goes through.
The deadline is 12:01 a.m. Eastern Tuesday, and it could be the most disruptive strike the U.S. has seen in nearly 5 decades.
Anything beyond 2 weeks is going to be very, very, very disruptive.
Economists say the potential strike would impact supplies of items like chocolate, alcohol, fruits, hot peppers, and European cars.
A lot of the parts that would be needed to produce vehicles, let's say towards the end of this month, will be on those boats right now. And so if those don't get unloaded, you start having sporadic plant slowdowns.
The International Longshoremen's Association is calling for a $5 per hour pay hike per year over a 6-year contract, raising the top hourly wage from $39 to $69 and keeping its current ban on fully automated equipment. If there is one way for consumers to look at this economic glass as half full, there will be plenty of gifts in stores this December.
Since this was an event that we knew could potentially happen, a lot of retailers were bringing in these holiday items ahead of time.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
All right, so we will bring you some more news, and we have a live interview with Harbor House of Central Florida right after this. Welcome back. We have a great interview lined up for you this morning with Harbor House of Central Florida, and Michelle Spurzel is with us, and there are some great events coming up next month that you can help support in the month of October. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. And I wanted to ask you how Harbor House and everything fared with the storm. I know that, the impacts were much worse, farther north, but everything okay?
Yeah, everything's good. We have 129 people staying with us right now. 73 of them are kids. And so we have one room which we put down the hurricane shutters and we turn it into a giant game day for the kids because they're off of school. We want to make sure that they're doing okay. And so that's what we did during our hurricane off school day.
Well, that's good. That's good. I know everyone was on pins and needles about whether or not it would be like 2 days out of school, and for Orange County it ended up being 1, and then some of the other counties it was 2. But when we look at the history of Harbor House, if people don't know, this is something that's been a resource in our community since the 70s.
Yeah, we're going to be turning 50 in 2 years. And so it's something that Harbor House and having a domestic violence center in our area started early in the movement for domestic violence. And it really did start by having people kind of an underground railroad situation of people not knowing where they could go, and they would get a phone number and they would go to someone's house. And that's kind of how Harbor House started as well. And then we have the really great history of being able to work specifically with Orange County sheriffs and OPD. They were able to help us get funding in order to open up the crisis line and the emergency shelter. So that all happened because we have such a great community early on in the movement. And it also helped a lot because that partnership has grown and continued. And that's why we have some advocates that are co-located within law enforcement for our early victim engagement program too.
Mm-hmm. And, you mentioned sort of that underground element. And to this day, you continue to be very protective of those who are trying to get out of some dangerous situations when it comes to domestic violence. And also the face of domestic violence and the awareness of how broad that scope is, not just women and children, but also making room for men and making room for pets, and just a lot of the things that go into the dangers around trying to get out of those types of situations. You really try to protect people.
Yeah, our job is really to remove as many barriers as possible as to someone who's seeking shelter. And so our Shelter itself is definitely open to women, children, and men. That isn't the case across the United States. Some shelters are really just for single women, and they have to leave their kids behind. In our case, we have it open for everybody to be able to come in, including pets. And so that's so important because oftentimes people are now waiting to have kids. And so their pets are their children. And so they don't want to leave their animals behind because they know that that person's going to abuse, if not maim or kill their pet. And so for us to be able to have that here on the campus and be able to make sure that everybody can stay safe is really important.
And maybe some people who reach out, you're able to help, and it's not necessarily that they need to come to the shelter, right?
Correct. The shelter is one of our many programs. I would say we serve a lot more people in our outreach program, which is our community services program. We have advocates that are co-located with law enforcement, as I mentioned, and so they will call different people who there's been a 911 call and law enforcement has responded. We call them to make sure that one, that they're safe, that they know about Harbor House, we can safety plan with them. We also have advocates that are at the courthouse on the 5th floor who will help someone who's looking to file an injunction. We also have attorneys that are there who can help provide free legal advice or help someone actually and represent them when they're going after their injunction. And then we also have advocates that will assist with doing support groups, one-on-one counseling. We have some mental health therapists as well. So we're really there to provide all different types of services that someone needs on this journey that they're experiencing with domestic violence, because our advocates have been there, they've supported other people, and it's not just the resources that we can tap you into, but it's also the resources by having someone that you can talk to about your situation and safety plan around what's happening with you, financial safety planning, as well as physical and also emotional safety planning.
And so with so many things that you're working on and able to help people with, it's not free. So you have lots of charity events throughout the year. And how does all this come together to make so many resources possible? What keeps Harbor House going?
What keeps the community actually does keep Harbor House going. And so, we have great support from our local governments, Orange County, and also the city of Orlando. Also, we do get some funding, a lot of funding from the state of Florida. But with our community here, we do some different events. Two of them, our signature event, which is Purple Door Luncheon, which is actually happening on Wednesday. We're very excited about that event, and that is our largest fundraising event. We have it at the Rosen Center, and you can see Eric there. We partner with you all to provide MCs in order for us to honor different people in the community that are helping support do the work. And so this year, we're going to be honoring Massey Services and the Massey Foundation, and we're also going to be honoring the Gabby Petito Foundation for the work that they've done to help support domestic violence locally and then also statewide. And then in the case of the Gabby Petito Foundation, the work that they're doing across the United States.
And I've been to the event many times, and so many really riveting stories come out of this program and this event.
That is one thing that I love about our event as well, is that each time we hear from a survivor who's used Harbor House services, and it might be that it's an adult survivor, a child survivor, someone who stayed in shelter, someone who utilized our outreach program or our legal program, because we really are, and that's the theme this year, is we are more than a shelter. We are able to provide so many different services and really be there for someone as they're going through the journey of getting to the other side of domestic violence. And so the theme this year is more than a shelter, and really that it's about safety, it's about healing, and it's also about hope. And that's what we want everybody to know and be a part of when they're working with Harbor House, be it that you're receiving services or you're volunteering or you're donating to us.
And you have a vigil coming up at the end of the month of October.
Yeah, this is going to be the first time that we're doing a community vigil with all of the other victim service providers here in Orange County and also in Osceola County. So it's going to be at UCF, and we're doing it on Tuesday, October 28th, I believe. Yes, no, 29th. 29th. And 29th, and it's going to be at the Reflection Pond, and we're doing that in partnership with the Victim Service Center for our UCF, Victim Services, Nuevo Senderos is going to be there, Stand Up Survivor, Help Now, which is the domestic violence center that's in Osceola County, and then also Harbor House. And we're all of us in the Women's Muslim Organization. So all of us came together because we want to be able to be there to honor all the survivors that we work with on an annual basis. And we're going to be honoring the survivors who we've lost to domestic violence, people who might be going through it right now, and then also people who are on the other side. And so I'm looking forward to us all coming together to be able to honor who it is that we all serve and we all work with.
Yes, looking forward to that. And Michelle, thanks so much for joining us this morning to talk more about Harbor House and these great events coming up. So hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Bridget. I hope to see you as well.
All right, take care. And of course, if you would like more information, you can always go to harborhousefl.com and follow them at harborhousefl on social media. That's going to do it for us on this edition of Breakfast. We'll be back tomorrow at 7:30 with more, and I'll see you at noon later today. Take care.